Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is set to have one of the biggest casts and crew in film history, with there seemingly being a new known name added to the list every few weeks, even during filming. I wanted to do a video listing every member, discussing some of the main ones and their announced roles, so that we can understand more about what kind of performances, characters, and potential we could get come the release of the auteur blockbuster filmmaker's highly anticipated project. But before I get into explaining the full cast, more updates and videos on the work of directors like Christopher Nolan, then don't forget to support this video by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into the full cast of Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. So Christopher Nolan's next big screen picture is a biopic about J. Robert Oppenheimer, the theoretical physicist who played an important role in developing the atomic bomb for the Manhattan Project. The film is an adaptation based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning book American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer, and currently, Nolan is filming with a massive cast and crew in what ought to be another groundbreaking film. The book itself includes a plethora of research into once classified documents, many interviews and reconstructed events in order to put together the full story of Oppenheimer. It includes a detailed insight into Oppenheimer's life, his development process of the first atomic bomb, and eventually the government's undertaking to discredit him. There's great description about his childhood and his early days, alongside a deeper exploration of his possible links to the Communist Party and the later security hearings. So Nolan has a wealth of material he can bring to the screen, and this time around he'll be teaming up with Universal to bring this story of Oppenheimer to the big screen. Universal Pictures has described the film as an epic thriller that thrusts audiences into the pulse-pounding paradox of the enigmatic man who must risk destroying the world in order to save it. But with most of the expanding cast and crew revealed, or at least the main roles announced already, it's time to discuss them, their roles, and a few of the primary crew members in Nolan's latest epic. Starting with the lead in Nolan's film, Cillian Murphy plays the integral role depicting the life and journey of J. Robert Oppenheimer himself. He's of course re-teaming with Nolan after starring in the Dark Knight trilogy as Scarecrow, Inception as Robert Fisher, and Dunkirk as the Shivering Soldier, and even outside of Nolan's films, he led the hit TV series Peaky Blinders, starred in A Quiet Place Part 2, and much more over the years. But this time, he gets to take center stage in a big theatrical film as the father of the atomic bomb, depicting his life as the American theoretical physicist and professor of physics at the University of California, Berkeley. We've already seen early scenes at the university filmed, and other sequences that show a good degree of aging going on, suggesting much of his life being captured on screen. Oppenheimer was of course the wartime head of the Los Alamos laboratory, and his development of the atomic bomb led to him reciting the words of the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." So Cillian will have a chance to display all the emotions that man felt while racing against time to develop the bomb, and then also all the grief he felt after it was used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. All the themes of time and grief that a great Nolan picture tends to include. We'll likely see both perspectives though, that of developing a bomb to end the war, but then also the regret of creating a weapon that could be the destroyer of worlds. Cillian's Oppenheimer will be the center focus of those ideals, and I can't wait to see his performance and the level of insight he brings to this famous figure. And Cillian is going to be starring heavily alongside an actress that he worked with before in A Quiet Place Part 2, and in Oppenheimer, she'll be depicting his wife. Emily Blunt will be playing Catherine Oppenheimer, and the two of them were married in 1940 until Oppenheimer's death in 1967. After playing iconic roles in both Edge of Tomorrow and Sicario, Blunt will be bringing truth to the performance of Catherine, who had quite the up and down life that you could imagine, in reflection of what Robert also suffered with post-war. With the end of the war in 1945, Oppenheimer had become known, and Catherine had become an alcoholic, also suffering a series of bone breaks from drunken falls and car crashes. Things did get worse, but in the beginning, like Oppenheimer, she was working on the Los Alamos project and hoping it would be for a good cause. The story of her life, the drama with her husband, and what creating the bomb could do to both of them will surely be a huge talking point in the film, and Emily Blunt is the perfect actress to bring a powerful performance alongside that of Cillian Murphy. Next up is Matt Damon, an actor that, along with great roles more recently in Ford v Ferrari, Stillwater, The Last Duel, and The Martian, he also starred in Christopher Nolan's 2014 science fiction epic Interstellar. In Oppenheimer, he will play Lieutenant General Leslie Groves Jr., the prime director of the Manhattan Project. We've already seen him on set in full costume as the General with Cillian and other supporting roles, but it's clear from the character that Damon is playing that he will be another main role in Nolan's latest film. feature. There were many individuals who were against Oppenheimer joining the research project, and some even felt he was a security risk. But Damon's Leslie Groves was one of the people confident that the scientist would be a great leader in the Los Alamos laboratory. He of course was right, and some even said it was a real stroke of genius on his part that he did believe in him. So expect quite the important role from Damon, even if his character arc isn't as emotionally investing as that of the Oppenheimers. He will still be a huge part of why Oppenheimer was able to conduct research in the first place, and Matt Damon is the kind of actor to always bring importance and stature to the roles he plays. Then there's Florence Pugh, a first-time actress in a Nolan movie, but she's already made a big impact in Hollywood over the last couple of years. She starred in Midsommar, Greta Gerwig's Little Woman, and Yelena Belova in the MCU, and she's lined up upcoming roles in Don't Worry Darling alongside Harry Styles, who starred in Nolan's 2017 World War II survival thriller Dunkirk, and she will also be seen in Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2. She's clearly impressed Nolan in previous performances, and in the biopic, she will be playing none other than Jean Tatlock. Oppenheimer is of course married to Catherine, but he was also romantic with Pugh's Jean during World War II. Oppenheimer had met her in the 30s and had an affair, but Nolan's film will likely also depict her time as a member of the Communist Party, creating many security concerns in the process. It's going to be interesting to see how Nolan deals with the reports of an affair going on while Oppenheimer was working on the Alamos project, and also the trial that took place over security reasons. So she will be a quite controversial part of the story, and maybe even a component that tests the relationship between Roberts and Kitty, and that of Oppenheimer's relationship to her friends and the Communist Party. Speaking of someone else who has starred in the MCU, Christopher Nolan has brought in Robert Downey Jr. to play the role of Lewis Strauss, who served as chairman of the US Atomic Energy Commission. It's known that he frequently crossed paths with Oppenheimer, and it led to him questioning his relationship with the US, along with his security access being cancelled. He will therefore be playing an opposing force to Oppenheimer as the story progresses, and after those early images of Downey and Killian on set, expect much more of this to come as we build up to the release of the film. It's going to be nice to see the actor in a role outside of the MCU, because like he's demonstrated in the other work he's put to screen, he is a great actor who can deliver under the direction of a good filmmaker. And Nolan does tend to get the best out of his actors, so I predict the same will be true of Downey. He's going to have a much bigger role than you think, and seeing him as this kind of character will hopefully be a breath of fresh air. Cast members who haven't had their roles currently announced but are starring in the film include Rami Malek, Josh Hartnett, Dane DeHaan, Jack Quaid, Matthew Modine, Ollie Haskivi, Alden Eidenreich, David Krumholtz, Kenneth Branagh, David Dastmalchian, Jason Clarke, Louise Lombard, James Darcy, David Rysdale, Guy Burnett, Harrison Gilbertson, Matthias Schweinhofer, Alex Wolff, Gary Oldman, Trond Forza, Christopher Denham, Josh Zuckerman, Olivia Thirlby, Jack Cutmore Scott, and Casey Affleck, who joined just a few days ago. As you can tell by me reading off those names, it's a hell of a big cast, and it will be interesting to see who they all play. But I'm sure that, like the supporting roles I mentioned before, that they will play 1 or 2 scene parts. Still, many of them will likely have important moments in the story, and not to mention that more still might be added. Who's to say that Michael Caine doesn't appear yet again in a Nolan film? Yes, he's retired from playing main roles, but he specifically clarified that this doesn't mean supporting roles too. So I wouldn't be surprised if Caine doesn't make a cameo in some way, shape or form, maybe similar to what we saw in Tenet, or like the radio lines he delivered in Dunkirk. Last but not least, there are central production roles in Oppenheimer, and along with Christopher Nolan writing, directing, and producing his latest efforts, Emma Thomas and Charles Roven are also primary producers once again, alongside that of the other roles that are very crucial in bringing this story to life. One of those includes returning cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema, who is joining the filmmaker for a 4th time following Interstellar, Dunkirk, and Tenet. After working on Let the Right One In and Her, Hoytema has become a favoured photographer with Nolan after that of Wally Pfister. And the film will be shot on a combination of IMAX 65mm and 65mm large format film for the highest quality image that we've seen in all of his previous work. And not to mention that Nolan and Hoytema will be using select black and white IMAX footage for the first time, opening the doors to some potential groundbreaking filmmaking and stylistic choices that they commonly push. There's also the return of Tenet's editor Jennifer Lame, who previously worked on Hereditary, Midsommar, and Manchester by the Sea, with Nolan praising her for overcoming the difficulty of the editing process on his previous film too. She's the kind of editor that can deal with very complex and nuanced filmmaking, so Oppenheimer will be another chance to show off her composure at bringing a difficult project to life. There may be a lot of people involved, but Nolan is the kind of filmmaker to really balance everything he's doing, and I'm sure that most of the actors involved will be around for a few scenes. There will be a focus on Oppenheimer and the central characters, and that's really where the heart of this story is and where it should be. But that was the full cast explained for Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. I will be keeping you up to date on everything surrounding his new movie, alongside more updates from Universal Pictures whenever they are made. It's likely that in typical Nolan fashion, we'll have a teaser trailer roughly a year before the film releases, so expect to see the first look at how all of this comes together this July or sometime in the summer. But in regards to the full cast and crew, let me know down below what your thoughts are towards them, along with what your overall excitement levels are towards Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer.